UBC Studios in Kampala. This is Good Morning Uganda.
Well, hello there, welcome and thank you for joining us on another cold morning Wednesday right here on Good Morning Uganda. We're coming to you live from UBC Auditorium, and of course it's always a great pleasure to have you wake up with us as early as this morning. And considering that the weather is not being nice or it's being friendly to some other people, we put that into consideration, but we'll be okay, we'll be fine, I will be fine. Well, it is the 20th day of April 2022. Philomena Mastiko is my name, and of course I am joined by Mollen, Kenyena. I also do have Robert Kirabo, who I really want to know from how they spent their night. Good morning, Robert.
Good morning, Philo. How have you been?
I'm there. I'm getting fine. I'm getting okay.
Well, like you said, I see the weather is having influence on you.
Right, it's taking a toll on me, but I'm much stronger than this. I'll beat it.
We just pray and hope. You know, today is Wednesday, and of course it's Crash Wednesday. And allow me to crush on these two ladies, that is Mollen and, of course, Philomena. Why? These days, waking up is not very easy. Also, it's very cold. But they wake up, and they're here, and I want to say, yes, I'm proud of you, my sisters.
Well, thank you so much, Robert. Thank you for making us your Women Crush Wednesday. Mollen, good morning.
Well, a very good morning to you, Philomena and Robert. I'm telling you, it's just got better. Robert has just named us. You know, he's WCM, and I'm like, okay, it's a good one. It's a good one. But, well, it's a cold Wednesday morning, and I can tell you one thing. It seems like these days we're looking at more of cold mornings. This is the worst time to wake up early, but we still do wake up early and all. We do it in good faith because we want to make sure that you're right, give you updates, and of course, you know, put a smile on your face this morning as you head towards work or even go about your day. So that's
Absolutely.
kind of key to us than those early mornings. Yes.
Well, today would ideally be one of those early mornings. Well, quite a lot has been happening, Mollen and Robert. Very many stories have really caught my eye between yesterday and today. You know, news, everything always comes in. But one story, to be very specific, is how government is actually procuring about 28 billion Ugandan shillings to be able to purchase an edge detecting machine. Now, you'd actually think that this is just any edge, detecting machine, but I'll tell you one thing for sure. If you're a civil servant and you're not willing to retire, even when your time has come, I have a feeling the time has literally come. I don't know what you think about this, but this is going to be interesting. Mollen, what do you have to say about this?
As looking at it, I'm like, okay, this is long overdue. I think we needed this. Can you imagine there are people who delay in office? They forge actually their names just to stay in office even when they're supposed to retire. Now, how do you expect graduates to come and take on some of these positions when you are forcing yourselves to stay in these offices? So now we have a solution for you. Now, I wish this goes through and they get the age detector, because we are tired of these public servants staying in offices when they're supposed to be retiring and doing other things. So I think it's a good move for me if I look at it. And I wish they could borrow it to some of us such that we can detect people's age. These days,
people
men lie about their age.
Yes.
It's not just ladies. So I wish that courtesy could be extended to the public, and maybe it is for you pay, like we go for DNA. You take someone, you're like, no. And guess what? They will be using, the technology uses teeth. You know, these are like kind of the parts in the body that can easily measure up to your age. So I think it's a good move, and maybe we should have it. I hope Parliament approves it.
Well, somebody actually said that all these civil servants that just don't want to leave, they should throw for them one retirement party, probably at Kololo Strip Grounds, and they go and then they leave the young people to come in and take these responsibilities. Well, what do you think, Robert?
Mother Uganda, sometimes I cry. I look at this country. You know, life is about priorities. And I don't think that is the priority for Uganda. Spending that money, there is so much that we need to spend on as a country that is so beneficial than civil servants who are not retiring. Because I'll be very honest with you, how many civil servants, if they can give us statistics, they believe are of age and have not retired? Then still you can have that machine in this country, given the dynamics of our country. And I want to tell you, still, people will clock that age and they will not retire. They'll still have other offices they'll take over where you expect the young to. So why spend lots of money on something that I believe is not that very, very important? I want to tell you, there are people who've clocked ages of retirement and they have not retired. Some that have been told, we still want you there, and they're still there and they're serving. Others, leave alone civil service, they'll still have other areas still within government, and they will be working. So
yeah, but
to
it's
me,
okay for you to come back as a contract person, like you retire first, and then if they still need you around, they will call for you and you take on some other responsibilities. Rather than you staying in office and delaying other people from getting that promotion. Is that one of the pressing
issues that our nation is facing this time?
Unemployment is a big issue in this country, and guess why we are there? Because people are in offices are not willing to leave them. They reach that age and they stay there, all in the name of they still want me. If you ask they actually don't want them in the office. So I feel like creating that gap, however small you look at it,
that
there are a lot of people who need these jobs.
That machine will be manipulated. In Uganda, if you brought a lie detector, age detector, people,
well, right now,
just be honest with yourselves and don't spend taxpayers' money.
Well, the main issue right here shouldn't really be the machine. Actually, it's the point why the machine is being purchased. Like Mollen said, unemployment, the young graduates, if you know how many graduates are on the streets trying to make sure they get themselves employed, it has become hard for them to get these jobs, and they've decided to be the job creators. But again, if you look at it, it's the old people who don't want to leave these offices, and it's very, by the way, sad and absurd that the people who are in these offices don't even do what they're supposed to do. They get to a point where the productivity is not optimal anymore. So really, maybe another solution could be brought in, but well, we don't know where that is yet to go. But also,
Philo, before you leave this, I want to remind you, for us who have been around for some time.
Yes, Robert.
There was a time the traffic police
in
Uganda came out and said vehicles must have speed governance.
Yes.
And they were very sure. Do you know what Ugandans did?
What did they do?
Technology to bypass the speed governance. You get it? So many of the things, unless you have a mindset change,
yes,
unless we look at the moral fabric of this country, that a person finds it morally right to retire. Morally right. That there is that, like you see in the Western world, where someone is being investigated of maybe a sexual scandal or corruption scandal, and the person, not forced, but morally right, says, let me step down to allow smooth investigation. Here in Uganda, they will take you in, out, you're still clinging to that office. So these technologies may not work, yet we may spend a lot of taxpayers' money.
Well, it has also been established that most of the Ugandans can never do things voluntarily, especially if they know they are at the losing outside. But, well, I mean, that is it. That is our people. I come to believe that sometimes you just need to put force to make sure some of these things are really implemented. But speaking of force, over there to our neighbors in Kenya, teachers have actually decided they are in for a suggestion that probably corporal punishments like caning should be brought back into the system when it comes to disciplining the children, because they believe that they are misbehaving and it's really quite at such a high rate. And they only believe that caning could be the one and the most effective way to punish them. Well, we'll be getting into that discussion also later on, but for now, let's take a look at some of the stories that we did have last night, both locally and internationally.
It off with a police crime report over the Easter weekend, where about 69 people lost their lives, according to the police report. Police released the Easter weekend crime report showing 69 people dead. Police spokesperson Fred Enanga highlighted on major operations throughout the holiday, and 29 people died in accidents, while 40 died in major crime incidents. In the 51 major incidents reported to police during Easter weekend, 40 people were reported dead and 345 suspects arrested in connection to crimes. Murder topped other crimes, with statistics indicating 10, followed by mob justice 7, and domestic violence among others. During the same period, aviation police intercepted trafficking of 15 Ugandans at Entebbe International Airport. The unscrupulous people wanted to exploit the Easter holiday and traffic people to Saudi Arabia without following set standards. During the Easter weekend, traffic police registered 108 accidents involving 104 people, where 27 were fatal, claiming 29 lives and injuring 75 people. In the traffic operations, 9,278 were arrested, although some were released after clearing penalties. In other operations against criminal gangs, last week police reinforced patrols in Nsanji, Wakiso district, where 21 people were arrested after screening. Old Kampala, 53 people were arrested. Katwe police station, 24 suspects were arrested after screening, and Kabalagala, 26 arrested. Police believes these merging criminal gangs of Greens in Chengera and Kasolo group are intending to cause havoc in Kampala metropolitan areas, being pushed by economic hardships. Meanwhile, police have updated on the investigations regarding poison claims of the late Speaker of Parliament, Jacob Oulanyah.
And in another story, the Uganda coffee stakeholders are still criticizing government's deal with Uganda Vince Coffee Company Limited, which they accuse of promoting monopolistic trade in a free market economy. In February this year, Finance Minister Matia Kasaija and the Secretary to Treasury signed a deal on behalf of government of Uganda with the Uganda Vince Coffee Company Limited that would see the Italian company have preferential treatment in Africa's biggest coffee market. Now, queries of the motive behind the MOU signed by Finance Minister Matia Kasaija and the Permanent Secretary and Secretary to Treasury Ramadan Gobi are still at play, with players in coffee sector crying foul. Clause 4 subsection 2 of the MOU stipulates that government will guarantee supply of coffee to Vince Company Limited and will not allow other exporting companies to register ahead of it. As of March 2022, Uganda registered over 40 coffee exporters, with the biggest players for almost a decade being Chagalanyi Coffee, Qualcomm, Ugacom, Olam Uganda and Omoro, but they risk being sidelined out of business by this agreement. Now, these stakeholders claim that they were not consulted nor represented by the Ministry of Agriculture and the Uganda Coffee Development Authority. Uganda's coffee exports in June 2021 amounted to 618,388,000, which is 60 kilo bags worth of 58.56 million US dollars, the highest ever in a single month since 1991.
And away from issues regarding coffee, the Katikkiro of Uganda, Charles Peter Mayiga, advised all political parties to work together to change people's lives. This was during a courtesy visit of Alliance for National Transformation led by the President Major General Mugisha Muntu at Bulange, Mengo. The Alliance for National Transformation President Major General Mugisha Muntu visited Uganda, Katikiro, and discussed matters of national concern. They first held a closed-door meeting where journalists were not allowed, and then entered into a cabinet room and addressed the media. During this engagement, the Katikiro Maiga advised politicians to deliver services to the people. Maiga disclosed that Bulange welcomes all people irrespective of color and appealed to all political parties to put aside misunderstandings and work to develop their people they represent. The ANT president said that they hope that they will one day lead this nation and bring the change that is desired by many Ugandans. In attendance was the former leader of opposition, Winnie Chiza, and other members of parliament.
Well, away from that, we head over to Omoro, where the Electoral Commission has warned that no campaigns should be carried out in Omoro County since no one has yet been cleared to run for the constituency. The Electoral Commission spokesperson Paul Bukenya told UBC that Omoro residents and political parties must comply and implement the earlier issued poll roadmap. Omoro constituency seat fell vacant after the death of former Speaker of Parliament Jacob Olanya, and with a few weeks left to Omoro County parliamentary by-elections, processes are swiftly moving on. In an interview with UBC, the Electoral Commission spokesperson Paul Bukenya urges all stakeholders not to contravene the earlier EC guidelines. Bukenya also gives an update regarding the forthcoming elections for women councils across the country. He, however, confirms that so far there has been no communication to the Commission of any vacancy in Parliament in line with the 2021 court petitions. Opposition political parties are also equally preparing for the races, and from credible sources, we are told that the NRM party chairperson, President Yoweri Kaguta Museveni, has sought for audience from some of the party members who have so far showed interest to replace the late former Speaker of Parliament.
International scene, Russia-Ukraine was to tighten sanctions on Moscow. Russian seizes city in eastern Ukraine. Now Russia demands that Ukrainian forces hold up in a steel plant in Mariupol lay down their weapons, offering a ceasefire in area of Azovstal facility. Ukraine's deputy prime minister says Russia handed over 60 soldiers and 16 civilians to Kyiv in the fifth such exchange of prisoners of war. Now, the UN Secretary General Antonio Guterres calls for a 4-day humanitarian pause to allow civilians to leave and humanitarian aid to reach conflict areas. And US, Canada, UK and Germany pledged military assistance to Ukraine amid Russia's offensive in the eastern Donbas region. Ukrainian forces have repelled numerous advances by Russian forces in the Donbas, saying the UK Ministry of Defense. And Russia is trying to capture the eastern region after being frustrated elsewhere in Ukraine. And Ukraine's President Volodymyr Zelensky says the situation in Mariupol remains as severe as possible. And Russian-backed fighters are reportedly trying to storm an industrial complex in Mariupol, where Ukrainian troops and civilians are said to be holed up. The Biden administration is reportedly planning to announce another $800 million military aid package for Ukraine. And a Russian tycoon calls the war insane in rare direct criticism by a high-profile Russian. Moving on to UK's Johnson apologizing for COVID Partygate scandal. Well, the British Prime Minister Boris Johnson has offered what he said was a wholehearted apology for attending an illegal party during lockdown, but insisted he didn't knowingly break rules or mislead a parliament and brushed off calls to resign. Johnson told lawmakers in the House of Commons on Tuesday that it did not occur to me that the birthday gathering, complete with a cake, was a party. Opposition politicians and some among the governing Conservatives have called with increasing frustration for Johnson to quit since stories began to circulate late last year of parties in the Prime Minister's office and other government buildings while the country was under coronavirus restrictions. The scandal came to be known as Partygate. Last week, Johnson was fined 50 British pounds for attending his own surprise birthday party in 10 Downing Street in June 2020, making him the first British Prime Minister ever found to have broken the law while in office. Johnson has faced growing outrage since allegations surfaced late last year that he and his staff held office parties during COVID-19 lockdowns when millions in the country were barred from meeting with friends and family. And away from that, Nigerians sharing school sex tape face 14 years. Nigerians have been warned that sharing images of child pornography is an offense that carries a 14-year jail term after a video alleged to involve school children went viral. Students from a prestigious school were on a trip to Dubai last month when the alleged incident was filmed. The mother of a 10-year-old says her daughter was coerced to participate. Lagos state government has ordered the school's closure so the alleged sexual violence case can be investigated. In a video posted on social media, the mother alleges her daughter was dragged by the male students and accused the school authorities of a cover-up. Chrisland Schools, which runs several private primary and secondary schools in Lagos, has denied any wrongdoing, saying it takes its duty of care seriously and would cooperate with any inquiry. According to the school, it was a game of truth or dare that involved 5 out of 76 students attending the World School Games between 8th and 14th of March. It said it had informed the parents of the misconduct and the students had been reprimanded in accordance with the school's regulations. But the mother of the 10-year-old says she was not told the severity of what happened at first, only finding out later when another parent alerted her to the footage, which has since been widely shared on social media. When she questioned her daughter, she found out the girl had been told not to speak about what had happened. My daughter was dying in silence and she couldn't speak.
About climate change, air pollution is killing us now. In the early weeks of the coronavirus pandemic in 2020, doctors noticed a surprising silver lining as Americans were having fewer heart attacks. Now, one likely reason, according to an analysis published last month by researchers at the University of California, San Francisco, is that people were inhaling less air pollution. Now, millions of workers were staying home instead of driving to work, and Americans were suddenly burning a lot less gas. And across the country, the researchers found that regions with larger drops in pollution also had larger drops in heart attacks. Now, air pollution does not demand for public attention as it did in the 1960s when thick smog yellowed urban skies. But evidence has piled up in the recent years that the real progress in the United States has made in reducing air pollution isn't nearly good enough. Now, air pollution is a lot deadlier than previously understood, and in particular, studies like the analysis of heart attacks during the pandemic showed that the concentration of air pollution currently permitted by federal policies are still far too high. In an assessment of the recent research, the World Health Organization concluded last year that air pollution is the single largest environmental threat to human health and well-being.
And this morning, we would love to hear from you some of your thoughts concerning the increase of tax and bus transport fares that are due next week. And this is definitely because of the increase in price fuels that has been a bit stagnant and not going anywhere downwards for close to 4 months now. So there are meetings that will be held today, definitely among the stakeholders, to be able to make sure that they increase tax fares. This is mainly for the taxis. And for the bus fares, well, the meetings are expected to be happening next week. Now, this conversation is going to be shaping up what we'll be discussing in the newsreel in the next hour. But for now, from you in the poll question, we love to hear what are your thoughts on the increase of tax and bus transport fares due next week. The hashtag is UBCGMU on Twitter, and you can send us an SMS text or even a WhatsApp message. The number is 0709 602 592. Well, for now, we are going into the inspiration song this Wednesday morning, and when we get back, it will be, of course, more and more amazing programming right here on Good Morning Uganda. We'll be back.
Live from UBC Studios in Live from UBC Studios in Kampala. This is Good Morning Uganda. Live from UBC Studios in Kampala. This is Good Morning Uganda. Live from UBC Studios in Kampala. This is Good Morning Uganda. Live from UBC Studios in Kampala. This is Good Morning Uganda. Live from UBC Studios in Kampala. This is Good Morning Uganda. Live from UBC Studios in Kampala. This is Good Morning Uganda. Live from UBC Studios in Kampala. This is Good Morning Uganda. Live from UBC Studios in Kampala. This is Good Morning Uganda. Live from UBC Studios in Kampala. This is Good Morning Uganda. Live from UBC Studios in Kampala. This is Good Morning Uganda. Live from UBC Studios in Kampala. This is Good Morning Uganda. Live from UBC Studios in Kampala. This is Good Morning Uganda. Live from UBC Studios in Kampala. This is Good Morning Uganda. Live from UBC Studios in Kampala. This is Good Morning Uganda. Live from UBC Studios in Kampala. This is Good Morning Uganda. Live from UBC Studios in Kampala. This is Good Morning Uganda. Live from UBC Studios in Kampala. This is Good Morning Uganda. Live from UBC Studios in Kampala. This is Good Morning Uganda.
Our nice good weather and nature that sustains us all, that enables us all to continue each in their own way, because we are all different, even according to each individual's work. But what joins us to become one person is the sweetness from the flavored drink Alleluia Jingati drink and Alleluia Tamarind drink. The flavor that quenches your thirst while at the same time treating and healing your body, because it is 100% natural. Enjoy the drink that has got the tamarind juice in it. Made by Alleluia Reflexology, Healthy Solutions and Nutritional Research Center Limited. Get yourself a bottle of Alleluia from all shops around.
Even with my grandson, a doctor at my side, I struggled to get the help I needed. But he saw something that day. He began to work day and night. He wouldn't quit, even when people said no. He wouldn't stop fighting. He knew.
We also have enough air to.
It is intellectually engaging.
And you can only become a leader when there are problems.
I like that.
The same applies to Rwanda, Burundi. So what are we federating?
Whether rats from another country can be, somebody must be there to hold everybody accountable.
But at the moment, we would rather deal with what we have, make it right.
First of all, we as elites of Uganda, we have made Museveni the issue. I can tell him Museveni is not the problem of Uganda. The problems of Uganda are much deeper. We can change the next 20 presidents and we'll still be this roundabout.
Deeply incisive.
The different political forces that we have in the country, in the country, we don't seem to really have achieved that minimum political consensus over certain things.
Authentically symbolic and insightful. Behind the headlines every Wednesday at 10 p.m. with Charles Odong-to. All on your public broadcaster, UBC, inspiring Uganda.
Get connected today with the My Airtel 4G smartphone and enjoy free data for 1 whole year worth 86,500 Uganda shillings. That's free 2 GB for the first month and free 1 GB for the next 11 months at only 250,000 Uganda shillings with free data for 1 whole year worth 86,500 shillings, making the effective price of the 4G phone 163,500 shillings only. Airtel, the smartphone network.
It's no secret that ICT makes learning easy.
The strides made in our field couldn't be possible without it.
And now we can watch our favorite show.
My radio is my best friend.
UCC provides an enabling regulatory environment and policy guidance for healthy competition. We also facilitate ease of doing business in the communications sector through licensing, standardization, spectrum management, tariff regulation, rural communication development, and consumer empowerment. An informed consumer is an empowered consumer. UCC supports local content and innovations. Driving the development of a robust communication sector in Uganda is Uganda Communications Commission.
Live from UBC Studios in Kampala. This is Good Morning Uganda.
5 minutes after 7 a.m. right here in Good Morning Uganda. Thank you for joining us once again as Ali is now on this discussion that we're going to be having in this specific segment, the Good Morning Uganda Newsreel. I am Philomena once again, and I am joined by Robert Kirabo Nyonyintono. Maybe before we get into the discussion, just to remind you of our poll question that is running on our social media. That is, what are your thoughts on the increase of tax and bus fares that are due next week? Share with us what you think. We'll be getting into all your opinions, your thoughts, and of course your 2 cents as Good Morning Uganda goes on. But also that very discussion or that very question is going to be shaping our discussion this morning, Robert. Now, yesterday we did have see that the transport operators and passenger transporters were intending to have a meeting to increase the tax fares. Now, this is information that most of us don't really like to hear, but also their main reason was that there's been quite an increase in fuel prices, and there hasn't been any movement of these prices downwards, Robert. And this has been coming to nearly 4 months now, and we're still complaining. Initially, it was petrol, but even now, as things go on, we are seeing diesel prices also going high. And all this is definitely attributed to the Ukraine-Russia war that has really affected very many things. And I mean, it basically has a trickle-down effect. Now, the question is, what do we do as Ugandans? How are we going to perceive all this? They did actually say that for the shorter routes, Robert, they will be increasing by about from 500 Uganda shillings to 1,000 Uganda shillings. So, meaning initially, if you're paying 2,000, there are chances that you could be paying 2,500, 3,000 Uganda shillings. And for the longer routes, they'll be increasing from about 3,000 Uganda shillings to 5,000, meaning if you are initially paying 5,000, you're now going to be paying approximately 8,000 or even 10,000 if really it gets to the worst. But now, my question to you, Robert, is this really justifiable? Because we know everybody's struggling. The economy, they're crying fuel prices, but if you look at the people who are using these means of transport, especially public transport, they're definitely going to their work, their places of work, to their businesses, and we also know that businesses are being highly affected by, these prices. So does this make it justifiable for them to increase the prices in this given time?
First, I want to begin by saying our government, there are things they should take more seriously. I'll begin with the issue of fuel. At first, we were told that fuel prices were going high, had shot up. If you remember very well, that because the truck drivers at one of our borders, we know Uganda is a landlocked country, so our fuel has to enter through borders to get to the different outlets. So during COVID-19 testing, if you remember very well, that strike, they told us, but now that they had cleared the trucks, the situation would normalize very soon. The trucks were cleared, the situation never normalized. So that means there could have been other factors. Note that. When we look globally, like my sister has said, fuel prices, barrels have gone high, and this has been worsened by Ukraine war. We know it ranks great in terms of oil and gas internationally. So we must accept that has been a problem. But why am I saying that government should take certain things very serious? When we look at the fuel crisis that we're having in Uganda, not that fuel is not available. That is one.
Yes.
No, there are countries where fuel is not available. And maybe you have to wake up and line for this fuel. Uganda, what we're having is fuel is available. Tetunabura mafuta tegabuze mu Uganda, wegali. Now the problem is high prices. How would we have stabilized these prices or reduced them? One, if you have reserves, and these reserves, because Uganda have oil reserves.
Yes.
If you ask UNOC, Uganda Petroleum Authority, they'll tell you that these reserves are being used by some company for some other uses. So there are hours, but they were let out for that business arm of it. But if we had reserves, and these reserves, government is able maybe to give 3 or 4 or 6 petrol stations, of course, automatically that price would reduce a little bit. Now in this fuel issue, we have a problem of actually one holding. That you find some dealers, because if you look at the people running the oil business, Much as it is international, it has a problem. Our brothers in Kenya,
yes,
you saw them, many are even entering Uganda to get cheaper fuel. Now that disturbs. Because if fuel is passing through your country to go to another country, and now you're going to another country, which is a landlocked, you're near Mombasa, you're near the port and all that. But one of the things we find is governments must have a stake or find a way in crucial businesses, in crucial areas. Like fuel, you cannot 100% leave it to the private sector, because for them they're aimed at maximizing profits. If we are 20 people in the oil business in this country, in fuel business, we set our prices.
But
that's why they don't differ.
Yes.
Now to begin the fuel issue that these guys are pointing at, before I even go to how unjustified this is. So as long as government doesn't interest itself in saying we are in a liberal economy, but as government we should have hands, should have some extent where we can influence certain factors, have reserves, meet these dealers, analyze, okay, how much do you spend on this and this? Where can we reduce as government? And if we reduce, because the good thing with fuel, it is easy to regulate. These fuel stations have prices. We don't have so many fuel stations that you can fill, you know. So they have the prices. If we reduce this for you, how then do you reduce the cost of fuel?
Because at one point we actually saw Kenya do that, and not so long ago. But also just maybe to tell you, some of the tax operators, in fact, to be very specific, Grace Luyera, the Administrative Secretary, Federation of Uganda Taxi Operators, he said that he talked to the Ministry of Works and Transport. They did talk to them, so they are in the know. They know that all these transport fares are going to be increased. And, I mean, the ministry seems to be okay with this.
Well, when we come to taxis, now that I've told you how the issue of fuel that they are looking at has a way we've kind of neglected it to some extent. And I call upon our lovely government that they should interest themselves. We shouldn't leave everything to the private sector. Education, private sector. You go to health, remember during COVID, where even bodies were being detained for millions of money. So we should look at those critical areas and interest ourselves. Now, when we go to the taxi operators, we go to these transporters, first and foremost, I want to say, still, government must interest itself. There was a time in this country, I wasn't there, but I'm told, when we had what they called UTCs, I was speaking to my father and he was briefing me, and he said these were government owned. Now, if the private sector, their costs were high, you had alternatives. They would not be maybe that very comfortable, that very good, but you had a choice where you would pay a ticket at a lesser cost than these other people transport you. Today, as we speak, it is entirely in the private sector. I heard government at one time talk about buses. They're going to introduce buses. I want to tell you, at every day at around 5, when you go to railways, there's a train there.
Yes.
It is full to capacity. It will take you, I think, from here up to about Nambola, around there. And it's stopping places. Half price you would pay by taxi. That is because that is government. It is not an individual. If that railway was privatized, maybe it would even be double the price. So government should interest themselves. Now these are taxi and transporters. Why sometimes I feel they're not being very honest with Ugandans. When it is peak time, Philo, if you go to any taxi, the cost, the fares are not the normal fares. Peak time.
Yes.
For them, anything slight, they'll find reasons. When there is heavy jam, someone just comes in the park and says, for us maybe we have a VIP visiting or a particular road or there is a construction, taxi will just say, bali mukola lugudo, fetuongeddemu ebitaano. And Ugandans have to pay because you want to get home. When it was COVID-19, they were told fine half price. Remember what they did? They said because you are taking half of the number, now we are adding this amount on fares.
Because the argument was that we are trying to make up for the money we are losing from the other half.
Even when there was slight reduction in terms of enforcement, where they would almost take the same capacity, they would charge the same fare. When children are going back to school, They hike, they wake up, just and they will tell you now, Namugongo, this amount of money. So for a long time, they have exploited Ugandans. And unpredictable. You left home, you know transport going back home, I use maybe 2,000. You get to the taxi park, they are telling you, what do you do, Philo? You won't sleep in that taxi park?
Of course not.
Now you're getting from the little, maybe you wanted to buy bread for people and all that, and you're paying. So this taxi industry, the transporters, buses, wake up. Ntungamo times 2. People are going for Christmas. Times 2.
At one point, a bus that was going to Mbarara, ideally the prices would be ranging from 30,000. But there is a point where the fares went as high as about 70 or 80,000.
And was that fuel? They'll find all excuses. Now we are going, we don't have people we are bringing back. Investigate, they come back still full. So the transport industry, because of monopoly, that government has not interested itself, all plans to do so have moved at a snail pace. These people have been led to exploit Ugandans at any particular moment. Today, there are a number of economic hardships we must accept.
That's true.
If you calculate, a taxi is not like my personal car or your car, that you're taking 2-3 people. You have 14 people. 14 people. And if you fuel, you look at the profit margin still they are making, they must be considerate that everything has now hiked. And mobility or movement is very crucial. You know what is happening in Uganda? One time one politician said, Sera choina ogure chotaina. But when we go by that make sure you sell expensively what you have so that you can purchase what you do not have. I think we are losing this as a country. We've reached a point when it is all about exploitation. If anyone has has any way of exploiting, this is what we are doing. If you have a school, you wake up one day, we are coming from a serious lockdown, you hike fees, you hike requirements. We are going to have water, we are going to have sanitizers, we are going to do this. Schools we visited, these were not even there. But parents were coming from a tough time. But because we've lost love for one another, we've lost sense for one another, Ubuntu,
yes,
as the Bantu. We've lost this in our country, in all aspects, at all levels. Go to our politicians today. Look at how much our parliamentarians are allocating to themselves. Vehicles, amidst this, amidst that, they don't care. Go to schools, go to every aspect. So what is happening today? You find a person who will tell you above soap that has been released at this amount, for them they are selling it expensively as long as they're willing to buy. So where there is willing buyer, willing seller. But the seller is not knowing that, yes, this person maybe doesn't have an alternative. A Ugandan who is going to use a taxi has no alternative. They have to get to their destination. Border is more expensive unless you're going to foot. But if you're working in Kampala and you stay in Entebbe, how are you going to walk all the way to Entebbe? So when you look at all these things, one, government must come up seriously and look, and we stop what we call acting immediately, but plan ahead of time. By now, the buses we hear that were talked about should be operating.
Absolutely.
Should be there. The train should be operating. We should have what we know that this is government owned, so that if government doesn't address some of these things, at one time it's going to be taken hostage.
Yes.
Well, you wake up one day and the taxi operators say, for us, we are not going to work. People have to move. These private school owners wake up one day and for them they say, for us, we are not going to accept people in our schools. How have you improved your schools that a parent who cannot afford this would not have to pay through tooth and nail to educate their child? So as long as we not address these issues, these taxi people are going to exploit us. The bus people are going to exploit us. And most of the times, we lack even a consumer strong union that can look at these issues.
Now, I love that you talk about that, Robert. But just to remind you, the poll question this morning is, what are your thoughts on the increase of taxi and bus fares that is due next week? What are your thoughts on the increase of taxi and bus transport fares due next week? Now, Robert, you talked about how all these taxis, especially it's not even about the fuel prices. Even way before we got into all this chaos, you did mention of how taxis use the peak times to increase all these prices. They wake up one morning and there's a problem, and they decide to make sure they really fetch it out, everything that they can get from it. But let's talk about the regulation. Do we have actually a regulation body that is able to control that? Because now I am looking at it from a point where, before COVID, let's talk about pre-COVID, we had also those moments. Kids are going back to school, and then all these, transport fares are ridiculous. Our regulation, do we have a regulation body to make sure that it puts these people in place and puts them in check to avoid all these incidences and just have a standard price regardless, unless of course concerning times like this where the fuel prices are quite high, we would kind of understand. But before that, what about if the prices get back to normal? Are we still not going to see these taxis hike their prices and the buses? So the regulation, how is our regulation as Uganda?
We do not have a regulation that can dictate price in this country. We've had non-government organizations. There's one I know, it's called Uganda Consumer Protection Association, headed by a gentleman called Nyonyintono, and it's cross-cutting. What we have are bodies that look at standards, but we don't have those that look at prices. And then second, also you look for both legal and moral mandate. That a Robert Kirabo will wake up, buy his taxi, buy his bus, clear all requirements in terms of taxation that government requires. Then after, his aim is to maximize profits. Maybe he got a loan. He has to repay this loan. So government cannot therefore dictate in any way, because you've not provided incentives, you've not provided anything that would give you a yardstick or mileage to dictate prices. What government can do is only to have alternatives. And what do I mean by alternatives in this? That, okay, if fuel prices are high, how does government intervene? It may not be necessarily doing business that has petrol stations, but what factors can it do to stabilize these costs? Do you have reserves? Maybe that when there is a bit of holding, because I want to believe it is there, maybe if these business people know what is happening globally and they choose to increase their costs in Uganda, do you have a way that you can release fuel on market? Yes. Then automatically, because they supply at a lower price, they will be forced to reduce what they have. If you go to transport as government, do you have an alternative whereby, I want to give you an example. When the president said during COVID-19 and we had a lockdown and students had to go back home, when there was chaos at the old taxi park, remember, and then Nakalema, government got their buses. I saw police, I saw prisons, I saw a number of government vehicles, and they transported children home. You remember that time?
Yes, I do.
So what if government, you have buses, if you have trains that are yours, then when these taxi people feel that for them they want to hike times 2, increase 500, 1,000, 5,000, 10,000, a person has an alternative. It may not be as good as government, maybe the private sector, the buses that have TVs, good sofa sets, but there's an alternative. That one who is in a hurry, like if you're going to Entebbe, where you have an alternative now, that if you're so much in a hurry, you have your money, use the express highway. An ordinary Ugandan who doesn't have the money, there's another road. It could have a bit of jam, it is undergoing some repairs, but you're all getting to the airport if that is our destination.
Yes.
Because there's an alternative to that. So this is what government can do, but it cannot dictate prices in a liberal economy where people find their own monies buy their own cars, have their terms and conditions, and they are paying you all the taxes as you want them to be.
You talk about Ugandans, Robert, as we are coming to the end of these, because these also taxi operators are Ugandans. And one of the reasons they are also fronting is that right now they are operating, under losses. I did see some of the bus operators say some people have been laid off, okay? The people who have been working with these buses, some drivers, because, well, they are really operating at a total loss. So they cannot afford to pay these people. But now these are also Ugandans, okay? This is a business they are running and it is being affected. But we are looking at passengers. How about now the people who are operating these buses? It's a business. They're Ugandans. They are making losses. People are losing jobs, because they're not being able to, they're not able to be paid. So how do we also put those into consideration?
First, there is so much peddling of lies in this transport sector. There's so much peddling of lies. I heard one say buses have been packed because they're not operating. Yet the buses I know very well.
Yes.
When I contacted the person, he told me, my buses are.
So they're trying to put themselves in a vulnerable state.
You see, businessmen are shrewd. And some of them, because they're choking on loans, and they could have had issues, COVID and all that. Because I want to tell you, Philo, there's what we call people working together in a syndicate manner to achieve a major goal. Bus and taxi operators. For taxis, at least they have a number of associations that sometimes they differ. Mustafa Bayambala may come up and say, for us we are not going to increase, while Sekandi Rashidi of UTOF said we are going to increase. But for buses, these people have mastered the art of working together. That they will come up with all justifications. And these are not investigated to prove how true they are. By the end of the day, they achieve their main mission, that is increasing fares. You can't tell me that after the economy has fully reopened, much as there is a fuel challenge in terms of prices, that buses are now suffering. Because they are taking the people capacity and even sometimes cheating, where they have more people than they should even be taking.
Yes.
So at no point should we believe that people are being laid off because of fuel at such a time in the bus industry.
Yes.
There is no way you're going to tell us that the buses are now no longer making profit because of the fuel, or they are just. You would see these people strike, you would see these people stop operation, and the bus parks would be empty. But they're taking advantage of the situation because what is happening in our country now, it's all about exploitation. No one thinks about the other. That is why even some people that discuss policies in this country, because certain issues don't concern them so much. I don't know when you last used a taxi, but I don't know where many of our people that discuss policies and matter interest themselves when they last went to the taxi park or used.
Because that's not something they can relate to. They don't know the struggles of a person who uses a taxi.
They don't know a person who comes to Kampala and daily this person earns 5,000. All they do, we call them food drivers downtown. Someone has a restaurant, they are moving with plates giving to people. At the end of this person has 5,000. And this 5,000, if this person is going to remove 3,000, that is for transport, 2,000. These young daughters, how do you expect them to survive? These young girls, into prostitution, into what? But this don't come because they are far away from them. They are telling us to Maria Antoinette, if you can't afford a taxi, then use a border. If you can't afford a taxi, use a border, because they are far away from reality.
Yes.
Of what is happening. That is why they are not interesting themselves in some of these issues that are biting. That's why they are not saying no. Before you look for Simani age what, we allocate this amount of money. How are we handling transport? Because transport has a trickle-down effect on each and everything. How are we handling our reserves in terms of fuel? Because you find many of them, their fuel is all about a card.
They present a card and then they deduct the amount of money and then they just drive a one go.
You fuel and drive.
Yes.
What will happen? They'll just complain that as so and so, the fuel I'm getting is not enough. So budget to cater for that. We need, as we wind up this, let every Ugandan be patriotic. Let's feel, let's love one another. There is so much that we cling on now to extort money from people, which I believe this is not going to build our nation?
Well, there is totally some very, very crucial need by government to be able to prioritize some of the most important sectors. Top priority right now is very, very important. Well, that's it for the newsreel this morning, but we'll be taking you to the papers to see what's happening, what made the headlines, what made it to the news. And that is, of course, New Vision, Daily Monitor and Daily Nation. And thereafter, I'll be taking you to the roads to see how traffic is flowing on this Wednesday morning. And thereafter, Mollen Kenyena will be coming in also to give you more on this climate news and the weather forecast today. Also, look out for GMU agenda that will be following through in the next hour. And of course, some more sports highlights that will also be following through. It is Good Morning Uganda. I am Philomena Mastiko. See you in a few.
Live from UBC Studios in Kampala. This is Good Morning Uganda.
When you talk about our motherland Uganda, the Pearl of Africa, you cannot fail to smile because of the smile that fills the faces of the citizens. Our nice good weather and nature that sustains us all, that enables us all to continue each in their own way because we are all different even according to each individual's work. But what joins us to become one person is the sweetness from the flavored drink Alleluia Jingati drink and Alleluia Tamarind drink. The flavor that quenches your thirst while at the same time treating and healing your body because it is 100% natural. Enjoy the drink that has got the tamarind juice in it. Made by Alleluia Reflexology, Healthy Solutions and Nutritional Research Center Limited. Get yourself a bottle of Alleluia from all shops around.
It's no secret that ICT makes learning easy.
The strides made in our field could not be possible without it.
And now we can watch our favorite show.
My radio is my best friend.
UCC provides an enabling regulatory environment and policy guidance for healthy competition. We also facilitate ease of doing business in the communications sector through licensing, standardization, spectrum management, tariff regulation, rural communication development, and consumer empowerment. An informed consumer is an empowered consumer. UCC supports local content and innovations. Driving the development of a robust communication sector in Uganda is Uganda Communications Commission.
Even with my grandson, a doctor at my side, I struggled to get the help I needed. But he saw something that day. He began to work day and night. He wouldn't quit, even when people said no. He wouldn't stop fighting. He knew, even with my grandson, a doctor at my side, I struggled to get the help I needed. But he saw something that day. He began to work day and night. He wouldn't quit, even when people said no. He wouldn't stop fighting. He knew.
Get connected today with the My Airtel 4G smartphone and enjoy free data for 1 whole year worth 86,500 Uganda shillings. That's free 2 GB for the first month and free 1 GB for the next 11 months at only 250,000 Uganda shillings with free data for 1 whole year worth 86,500 shillings, making the effective price of the 4G phone 163,500 shillings only. Airtel, the smartphone network.
Live from Now Avenue in UBC Studios. This is Good Morning Uganda.
Well, thank you for joining us once again and taking a look at the press review this morning, starting off with the Daily Monitor. Zambia arrests alleged assassin from Uganda. That is the big headline over there. And the person of interest actually is Henry Kwotek, 40, who describes himself as a financial heavyweight champion and depicts a luxurious lifestyle. Spends time in Lusaka, Zambia, and Port Elizabeth, Eastern Cape, and Centurion Gauteng. All this in South Africa. And Joya last man 83 gets first child with 29-year-old woman. So not all hope is actually lost. And the pictures are over there, the man and his wife and the beautiful baby. Okay, more news. Taxi drivers now to hike fares over fuel prices. And also MPs summon woman in eye of coffee deal storm. Now this is a story that has been making rounds and more updates keep unfolding as the days go by. But also excellent PLE, the children are at home, they need to do some revision. Your worthwhile package for children, of course, this holiday is in the Daily Monitor. And if you love yourself some good homes, the heavy price you pay for living in substandard housing. And the lizard over there doing the most. That might create a world war with wives at night. Of course, we are talking about government to ban betting during day. Well, this should be very, very interesting. And doctors warn public overuse of painkillers. And this is something that we all do. Well, you need to get yourself a copy of the Daily Monitor to find out the implications. And still more, 140 lives lost in 9 days to traffic crime incidents. There was, of course, a report that was given by police spokesperson Fred Enanga. And again, today in history, Obote's ex-ministers appear in court, and still SA Boeing 707 crashes in Namibia. Of course, this is in the archives. All this in the Daily Monitor, but also let's take a look at what is happening in the New Vision this Wednesday.
Well, looking at the New Vision, lowest paid to earn shillings 500,000 from shillings 180,000. What are we talking about? That is the new salary structure for scientists out. Well, there is much more to that story on page 6 of the New Vision, and you just have to find out whether you fall in that group that is looking at new salary structure. But also in the New Vision for today, a big picture right there showing UPDF as they recover 800 cows. That is the Uganda People's Defense Forces soldiers guarding some of the 800 herd of cattle that were recovered right there. But also in the New Vision this morning, we look at the by-elections in Omoro, where Olanya's son faces tough race in Omoro. There is a full story on page 3 of the New Vision for today. And also the New Vision shows you ex-minister Ajedra files for divorce. That is after 5 years of marriage. Now there is much more to that story on page 4 of the New Vision for this morning. But also in Parliament, Parliament probe into Naguru land beneficiaries kickoff, and of course details to that story are on page 5 of the New Vision for this morning. Lottery launches shillings 16 billion cancer bankers project. Wow, that will enhance the cancer care in the country. Rotarians are speaking to that. But on the page 2 of the New Vision for this morning, they give you a big picture right there of Gerald Orera preparing his blade to cut a worn-out tire. Now that is when it comes to tire recycling. Also, vocational exams kick off peacefully, and also the enrollment is up. They are showing you the percentage right there, but also the technical and vocational education and training exams having kicked off yesterday. Now today in history, April 20th of 1997, the UPDF parades 114 Sudanese soldiers. They even give you a small picture right there of some of the 114 captives that is from the Sudanese region. Also today in history, in the 1997 same date, they're showing you a former US President Jimmy Carter met Sudanese President Omar Hassan al-Bashir in Khartoum. And state television, well, there is much more to that today in history. That is over the New Vision.
And moving on to the Daily Monitor Sports, Uganda draw giants Algeria over there, and that's Cranes coach Mitchell had silently hoped to avoid North African opposition and a possible derby, but he got exactly that with two-time champions Algeria and East African neighbors Tanzania. And still in the English Premier League, we look at the London derby. Free-falling Arsenal hope to end their 3-match losing streak when they travel to third-place Chelsea at Stamford Bridge. Now, the oldies were actually live on UBC last night. And of course, you know, we don't disappoint, we'll always deliver. And looking at the Africa Rugby Sevens, Onyango aware of Kenya Mountain. Now, if you're a big fan of rugby, this is happening seriously, and it must be very, very interesting. So you get yourself the Daily Monitor this morning to see what's happening more in the sports area. And now moving on to the New Vision Sports.
Well, the New Vision Sports right there is giving you a picture of President Yoweri Museveni interacting with officials from Deji University, Church of Uganda, Ministry of Finance, and the Woodball Federation, and talking football right there, the future of football in Uganda. But also, it is approved. What are we talking about? That is the artistic impression of the multi-purpose Woodball complex, which will cost shillings 26.7 billion to construct. They give you a plan right there in picture of how the Woodball complex is going to look like, and also more to that story of what President Museveni has showed no hesitation in approving, and also what the State Minister for Sports, Obua, is advising the Uganda Woodball Federation. More of those stories in the New Vision Sports for today. Ugandans impressive. We are looking at the Ugandans medal winners in Zambia so far. Who has what kind of medals? We're looking at Kirabo Namtebi at a 400-meter breast with gold. There is much more on that line on the bronzes and silvers that we have acquired so far, and that is in Zambia. They give you a lineup of that. But also in today's New Vision Sport, they show you Ugandan juniors dominate, and that is at the Ugandan Golf Union. Also showing a picture of the president right there, Joseph Mastiko, and the junior team also with a coach. That is in the New Vision Sport for this morning. But also crossing over internationally, what was interesting, Philo, is the Liverpool-Man U game. I don't want to give my comments. I have my new friends. I'll leave it at that.
People's hearts were broken. I saw people staking about, there is one person I saw staking, was it about like 200,000 to get a share? I was like, okay.
People right now are tearing their betting papers, I can tell you that. But
there is a lot of sadness going on.
That was a really hard luck for Manu, but they should have seen it coming. However, you guys are my friends. I'm not giving any comments.
Manu fans, you will recover from this. I know.
They always do.
Well, away from that, and still taking you to our poll question, which is, what are your thoughts on the increase of taxi and bus transport fares due next week? Obviously, it is running, and we'll be getting into the feedback as we go on. But also taking a look at the Daily Nation, scandal of level 5 city hospital without ICU. The picture over there showing what's happening, and of course unraveling the scandal. And now teachers want a 16,000 Kenyan shillings fees hike. Parents should realize we don't live in utopia, says the Kabianga Boys High School head teacher. Well, clearly it's not only Uganda where all these price hikes are happening. And still in the Azimio ticket, it's Igathe and Wanyonyi for Nairobi race. We told you this is the election season for Kenya. A lot is happening, and we are yet to see what will be happening. And there is a tragedy over there where we actually see a puzzle of yet another athlete killed by lover. Really, really sad and unfortunate over there. So get the details in the Daily Nation this morning. But also this morning, what we would love to look at is what is happening on our Ugandan roads, especially people from Kawempe division, looking at some areas of Chisasi, Komambo, Gachebando, Mulago, Kamocha, and Bukoto as you're trying to get to the city center. Well, it's not all rosy, again, considering that it rained this morning. So yes, I can see some traffic build-ups in some of these areas, and definitely it's expected every single time it rains. So if you're coming in from Komamboga, well, I will tell you that the road is a bit clear for you, and you could actually use it to access the city center. But also we do have the Bahai Road, which is another alternative, and it's very ideal for you because it is very free, so you can navigate your way around there. Around Chisasi, well, the roads are a bit clear, of course, with a few traffic build-ups here and there. For example, here at Bukoto Chisasi Road, as you're trying to access the main road, it's a bit crazy with a few traffic stopovers here and there, but it should be one that you could actually use this morning without having to worry a lot. But also you'd need to put into consideration that there are other shorter route cuts, rather shorter cuts that you could use to access the city center, which are not really heavy with traffic. But when you get to Chira Road, you need to be very, very expectant of the traffic build-up over here, which is marked by the red stretch. Yes, there are very many road users over there, and clearly everybody's trying to struggle to make sure that they get to the city center. So yes, around the area of Bukoto, it's a bit, dominated by traffic build-ups, but they're not really, really heavy. So if you're coming in from areas like that, then it should be ideal for you. However, Kira Road has quite some traffic build-ups and quite intense ones over here, as clearly shown, and even over here. So yes, also it's the main road that connects you to the city center, and we have very many other cars coming in from other places. I'm talking about Ntinda, Nadia, they all eventually get to this Chira Road, and the traffic buildup could be explained by that. So as you go all the way till Bukoto is also dominated by a few traffic buildups over here, and over there. So if you wanted to use Bukoto, maybe use another different route to make sure you get to the city center. It's a Wednesday, it's early in the morning, and yes, it did rain, so that combination exactly doesn't come off well for us as Ugandans. But this is something we should probably try to get ourselves accustomed to and try to plan and think ahead. If you have an alternative route, use it. If you have a shortcut that you know, use it, for as long as it will get you to your final destination safe and sound, but also in time. Well, that's it from the traffic updates this morning, but also we've got to hear from Mollen what she has for us this morning when it comes to the climate and the weather focus. How does it look like in Kampala, Mollen, today? Is it going to be cloudy the whole time? Is it going to rain?
One thing is for sure, it's going to be cold, and it looks like that will continue into the afternoon, so we're in for cold weather. But it looks like there is good news. That rainy system that we did start off with across most areas within Kampala has started to clear off for some of the areas, so that is the good news. However, it doesn't help with traffic, because at least a lot of people get to be stuck in that kind of traffic. I think at one point we established that people do drive a lot when it is raining, and someone will just pull out that 50 and buy the fuel, but rather drive, and that fuels into the traffic. But we could be looking at a clearing trend later in the day, so that will help, organize things around.
Well, I think that is enough information for you to plan accordingly. Like I always tell you, carry the raincoat, carry the kavera to cover your hair. Ladies, if you can't do it with a hair bonnet or something, carry the kavera, because treatment of that hair is not exactly cheap. So do what you must do to make sure you keep it intact. Well, my name is Philomena Mastiko, and that was it from the traffic updates. Have a great Wednesday. I will see you when I see you.
Well, the message is still hold on to that sweater and of course that umbrella for you, and the kavera, like Philomena says, have it with you, because there are all other areas that are also expected to have continuous rains, as we'll be looking into our forecast for today. But first, let's take a look at what is making headlines in the climate news. Now, we were talking about the recent IPCC report that came out, that is the Intergovernmental Panel on Climate Change, highlighting what we are facing in terms of climate status globally, but also where is it likely to hit most. And one of the countries that have come up, or continents that have come up being most vulnerable, is Africa and Asia as well. However, there is also a bigger threat that we're looking at, and that is the increase in carbon dioxide levels in the atmosphere. Now, for the very first time after a long period of time, we're looking at Earth's carbon dioxide levels hitting an alarming milestone, and even looking at what has been forecasted or projected we're looking at an analysis from the 1958 up to February 2022. And I'll tell you one thing, the numbers are rising. However, also the report that did come through from NOAA and NASA is indicating that even with the concentrations in the atmosphere, what is being looked at right now is that these are unprecedented levels of carbon dioxide. And when we have much more of those in the atmosphere, we're looking at more heat being trapped in there, and that fuels into global warming. So obviously the report that came out is coinciding with the observations that are being made. Now, this is data that is collected, not just a forecast. So the report, actually what is in the report is already happening now. The trend is that we might be looking at much more of those, and obviously that is what is likely to bring us to more of global warming and obviously the related weather disasters that are coming across. Now they're saying that according to what NOAA did give out, they're saying that carbon dioxide is still rocketing up, and if you look at the records, it is just relentless. And as much as people are working hard and need to be working hard to slow the growth rate, we have to be honest that we haven't done much yet to actually curb the building up in terms of carbon dioxide levels. Now, it is at that, but we're looking at what came out actually for the analysis of February, even looking into April, is that we have over 420 parts per million that is within the concentration of carbon dioxide in the atmosphere. Now, those levels can only mean that the Earth is already warming to more than 1 degree Celsius. If you look at what is targeted for 2030, the goal is to keep it to 1.5, which is no longer in reach, but we're looking at least well below 2 degrees. Looking at the carbon dioxide levels that have now been observed in the atmosphere, according to NOAA, I'll tell you one thing, it looks like even what we're looking at as 2 degrees Celsius rise might be still out of reach even by the time we get to 2050. So that's the bad news right there coming in from the analysis that was done. Now, when we're talking about this rise in temperatures, being fueled by carbon dioxide levels, we also look at the consequences of that. What happens when temperatures are rising? We do know that the Arctic and Antarctic are the areas that do have mostly ice sheets and glaciers. But when temperatures are increasing, then those start to melt. And the end result is we're having sea level rise. Now, there was a report that was done before about sea level rise and how much we're looking at in terms of the levels right now. We do know that there are two factors that contribute to sea level rise. And one of those has been the melting of ice across the Arctic. And that has been, observed with the current trend in temperatures. But so far, what we are looking at is that there has been changes from the mountain glaciers, especially for Greenland ice, and also some of the satellite data that is coming through even for today. They're indicating that we have had Antarctic ice sheets melting, and that has fueled into the rising of sea level. And obviously, most of what we are looking at is that when there's also expansion of sea level, then you look at more of those rising. But in brief, the global sea levels are rising as a result of human-caused global warming. Now, that means that with the recent rates being unprecedented over the past 2,500 plus years, we could be looking at more of the rise. Now, primarily, as the sea warms, you also look at more of that expansion. But what is at stake is that most of the islands that are close to the seas could actually be, underwater as this trend continues, because this continues to rise as the seas rise, even the islands as well. Now, what is feared, especially for what is close to Africa, is I think islands like Madagascar. But also we have seen most of the islands that have struggled with sea level rise, and most of the extreme weather events like Fiji being hit most when it comes to extreme events. And those are some of the things that are worrying when we look at sea level rise being looked at as on a rising trend even as we speak. But also away from that, we also want to look into the current updates from South Africa. That is the flooding and landslides that did hit South Africa just a few days ago, mostly the KwaZulu-Natal province right there. And we did have the president of South Africa coming up and declaring a national state of disaster over devastating floods in KwaZulu-Natal, where so far we have more than 440 people reported dead. And what we do know is that 40,000
2,000 people have been displaced. That is across the port of Durban, which has been badly hit. Now, what is being reported from the National Meteorological Agency right there, they're reporting 200 to 400 millimeters of rainfall falling in 24 hours. That was on the 11th and 12th of April. That was recorded over there. Now, if you look at those numbers, 200 to 400 millimeters of rainfall, that is like 3 months of rainfall here in Uganda for one area. Now, that's the kind of amount that fell over the port of Durban that was badly hit. And also most areas within KwaZulu-Natal, mostly there has been damages caused by landslides, the flooding, but also most of the infrastructure that has also been destroyed. And that is still looking at a very bad state for that area, which is why the president did come out to also declare a national state emergency and response to make sure that there is more that is being done in terms of recovery and also looking at more survivors. Now, the president did also come out to say government's response to catastrophic floods in devastated areas, especially KwaZulu-Natal and Eastern Cape, is on time, and they will be responding to make sure that people right there in KwaZulu-Natal are being helped in terms of recovery and also being relocated into safer areas. Now, it looks like South Africa is really dealing with a lot in terms of most of those flooding, especially looking at such vulnerable communities around KwaZulu-Natal. And this is what we're talking about when we're looking at extreme weather events. And already scientists are connecting the dots to such numbers of rainfall, such amounts of rainfall being related to climate variations over the area. But also we have looked at more rainfall increasing, and also here in Uganda, what we did forecast earlier, even coming in from the Uganda National Meteorological Authority, we were looking at more rains increasing for this week. And evidently, even what we're starting off right now for today, we did see the Lake Victoria Basin also coming up with more rains for this morning, but also more of the areas. But also some of the prediction centers across East Africa are predicting much more rains, especially across East African region. And what we do have here today is coming in from ICPAC, which is the IGAD Climate Prediction Center. And looking into those colors, where you see the green colors, that is indicative of at least 30 to 50 millimeters of rainfall, and then extreme green there looking at 50 to 100 millimeters of rainfall. Now let's focus our attention on Uganda right there. Now most of what is highlighted in green, we are looking at southwestern parts of the country, that is across Kabale Highlands. We do have areas of midwestern Uganda, that is where we have parts of Masindi, but also the deeper colors are looked at are around Mount Elgon Highland over there. That is where we have Mbale close to Bududa right there, also expected to have more pickup of wet weather conditions, and across the Lake Victoria Basin as well. We're looking at northern Uganda. Now generally we are looking at an increasing trend in rains that is across Uganda, and that is forecast for the period of 19th to 26th of April this year, which will be looked mostly into with the daily weather updates that we do give you here every day. But away from that, we also want to take a look at the situation that is happening across the country right now, tapping in from the satellite data that we have from the UMZ satellites. Now, I'll tell you one thing, that rain system seems to be moving away. However, it looks like there are more systems that are starting to develop as well, and that is across the Lake Victoria Basin. We're looking at one that is still over Kampala right now with those red to orange colors. Now, that looks like it's still moving away though towards the western side of Lake Victoria. So areas of Masaka, they also did start off with a little bit of those rains, actually a bigger system, but that is headed your way. You could be looking at more rains for this morning. But all is not in clear for the Lake Victoria Basin, especially the central part, that is Entebbe, Wakiso, Kampala as well. We still have most of those rains sticking around, and that could also be dominating the entire morning. But we'll be looking about that into within the forecast. But also the southwestern part of the country, extremely towards Kabale Highlands as well. In Mbarara, we're looking at more rains for this morning as well. And also if you look closely towards Bushenyi, where we do have those red colors and orange, that is indicative of the rainy conditions that are being forecast even across Rubirizi. Those are the colors that are indicating that rainy system that is there even right now, talking about rainy conditions. But also areas of Lyantonde, We're looking at Mbara as well, Masaka, Remiaga, looking at such a clearing trend, but we do still have those rains, so not yet in the clear for the rest of your morning. Now also areas within Ruero, Mitiana, we did start off with those rains. It looks like those are starting to clear, but that will also be clearing later as we head into the afternoon. Now looking into our forecast, it looks like most of the southern sector is forecast to continue with rains, and we're looking at starting off with areas of western region of Victoria, Masaka, Kalisi, Zimbabwe and Rakai. We're forecasting those rains. Still the cloud is over there, and starting off with a cold morning at 23 degrees centigrade. Mbara, even Bushenyi, Rubirizi, already those rains are on over the area, but we're starting off with a cool 23 degrees centigrade as well. Now across Mbale, Bududa, Buko and Sironko, we have those rains already in the system, and looks like those will continue into your morning, and starting off with a pleasant 24 degrees centigrade, quite cold weather over there. Now eastern Lake Victoria, Tororo, Busia, Iganga and Jinja, we're forecasting rains, and also that will be starting off with a chilly 24 degrees centigrade. Looking at Soroti, Katakwi, Moria and Kumi, we're forecasting those light showers that will be starting off with a warm 26 degrees centigrade. That rainy system is actually already headed over there, so that is one to look out for this morning. Now the eastern side of Central, we have Ruwero, Nakasongola, Boblenzi, Bururi, Nakaseke, and we're looking at rains for this morning, starting off with quite a pleasant 27 degrees centigrade, and most of that will continue into the afternoon for that area. Now northern Uganda, we already have that rainy system as well across areas of Kitgum, Gulu. Now it looks like that system will continue into your morning, even for the rest of that central part of northern Uganda, Padel and Jumani, starting off with a cool 24 degrees centigrade. Well, across the central part of Lake Victoria, that is where we do have Mukono, Kampala, and Entebbe, we're still forecasting those rains. Looks like that system is still in play, and also a cool morning at 23 degrees centigrade, and that also is looking at more of that cool weather continuing into the afternoon. We could also be looking at more rainy conditions later as the day progresses, but it looks like generally the country is at least picking up in terms of wet weather conditions, so this is good news if you were really looking forward to these rains, except for a few people having inconveniences with transportation or moving from one place to the other. But I can tell you it's a good day to have rains, and people have been really waiting on those. But we will be updating you during our daily weather updates here on Good Morning Uganda. Well, we do have the agenda coming up. Robert will be here to take you through that, and also later on we will be giving you much more of the sports highlights. My name is Mollen, Kenyena. I want to wish you a wonderful morning.
This is Good Morning Uganda.
When you talk about our motherland Uganda, the pearl of Africa, you cannot fail to smile because of the smile that fills the faces of the citizens. Our nice good weather and nature that sustains us all, that enables us all to continue each in their own way, because we are all different even according to each individual's work. But what joins us to become one person is the sweetness from the flavored drink Alleluia Jingati drink and Alleluia Tamarind drink. The flavor that quenches your thirst while at the same time treating and healing your body, because it is 100% natural. Enjoy the drink that has got the tamarind juice in it. Made by Alleluia Reflexology, Healthy Solutions and Nutritional Research Center Limited. Get yourself a bottle of Alleluia from all shops around.
Get connected today with the My Airtel 4G smartphone and enjoy free data for 1 whole year worth 86,500 Uganda shillings. That's free 2 GB for the first month and free 1 GB for the next 11 months at only 250,000 Uganda shillings, with free data for 1 whole year worth 86,500 shillings, making the effective price of the 4G phone 163,500 shillings only. Airtel, the smartphone network.
It's no secret that ICT makes learning easy.
The strides made in our field couldn't be possible without it.
And now we can watch our favorite show.
My radio is my best friend.
UCC provides an enabling regulatory environment and policy guidance for healthy competition. We also facilitate ease of doing business in the communications sector through licensing, standardization, spectrum management, tariff regulation, rural communication development, and consumer empowerment. An informed consumer is an empowered consumer. UCC supports local content and innovations. Driving the development of a robust communication sector in Uganda is Uganda Communications Commission.
We also have enough air to...
It is intellectually engaging.
And you can only become a leader when there are problems.
I like that.
The same applies to Rwanda, Burundi. So what are we federating?
Whether rats from another country can be, somebody must be there to hold everybody accountable.
But at the moment, we would rather deal with what we have, make it right.
First of all, we as elites of Uganda we have made Museveni the issue. I can tell Museveni is not the problem of Uganda. The problems of Uganda are much deeper. We can change the next 20 presidents and we'll still be this roundabout.
Deeply incisive.
The different political forces that we have in the country, we don't seem to really have achieved that minimum political consensus over certain things.
Authentically symbolic and insightful. Behind the headlines every Wednesday at 10 p.m. with Charles Odongto. All on your public broadcaster, UBC, inspiring Uganda.
Pick of the day on UBC, brought to you by
Authentically symbolic and insightful.
We should work so hard to evacuate this power.
Behind the headlines every Wednesday at 10 p.m. with Charles Odongto.
How to get points. Just use MTN to make calls, send SMS, load airtime, buy bundles, or pay for MTN subscription services.
Everywhere you go, MTN.
Pay for your dream phone, Mpola. Get your dream phone today for as low as 1,400 Uganda shillings with free data for a year and pay slowly. All phones come with daily 50 MBs for 12 months. Repayment period is 1 year. Available at MTN service centers and M-Kopa shops.
This is Good Morning Uganda.
Good morning once again on this fairly cold, that is Wednesday morning, and of course to many Ugandans, we know that we have two rainy seasons gifted by nature, where at least we know from March to May we expect rains, and then we have them from August to December. So we're in our main season, and all you have to do is to get prepared, knowing very well that you will be experiencing such cold mornings where showers are what wake you up. So we're here ready to take you through, and welcome to the hour of 8 at exactly 11 past the top of the hour. It is Good Morning Uganda agenda. And today we want to focus on the health sector in our country, more so looking at the plight of nurses in Uganda. Now, there are a number of media reports indicating that the nurses anytime will be going on strike. So we try to find out what could be some of these issues, if at all they are true. And joining me this morning is the President, Uganda Nurses and Midwives Union, that is Chiplop Justus Chiplengat, with whom we want to discuss more of these issues, and later we expect we'll be joined also by Chaterekera Paul, who is a clinical officer under the Uganda Allied Health Professionals. Chiplengat, you're most welcome to our studios.
Thank you very much, and good morning, viewers.
You know, I feel happy every time I'm near a male nurse, because I grew up thinking that nurses, midwives were meant to be women.
No, it used to be, but of course, when the population grew, and then the interests also grew up, so people, male nurses now enter into the system. Yes.
How does it feel being a male nurse? Because we see this is a profession of, I am sick, I'm not feeling fine, this and this. A bit, an experience of a male nurse.
Yeah, but we do better than even our colleagues, the female nurses. Yes.
Don't you
mind? There are some people who know that if I'm touched by a male nurse, I'd be better. Yes, then we are proud of it. So we are there.
A male midwife?
Yes, they
are they called? They are now. How would you?
They call male midwives. Yes.
I love that English. Male midwives.
Yes, to attend to the mothers. Yeah, that thing.
Very interesting. Now, when we look at some reports on social media, you are the president of the nurses in Uganda under their union. We are seeing reports of a looming strike. Last year, I hosted you here, and you told us you are attempting, if certain things are not worked upon. Are these mere rumors? Are they true? And why then, if so?
Yeah, my name once again is Chester Chirop, the president of Uganda Nurses and Midwife Union, and I'm glad to be hosted here. And it has come at the right time that I am here because of that. Of course, in social media, there's some people who have been posting that on 25th, nurses will go for strike. And I disown that because we did not decide, and we did not see why should we go for strike until there is some disagreement with the government. And of course our strike is a last resort. We negotiate, we bargain, and we lobby. Those three items. So if things doesn't work, then that is our last resort. And of course we are guarded by the labor laws. You cannot just wake up in the morning and go to the streets and you say you are striking. You have not won government, you've not moved, you've not discussed, you've not got any questions from the public. Why are you doing this? So only this morning I'm just disappointed. I'm actually disappointed by the statement I've seen in social media about the scientists' salaries for scientists. Too disappointed. That is now calling for that strike. I was telling the nation yesterday that we are not ready for strike. This is a government where we don't need to strike every often. We need to dialogue. But when dialogue doesn't prevail, then that is our last resort. Salary disparities in this country has been an issue. And we engage
And this is what this report is fronting, that because of salary disparities.
Yes. Why should somebody earn more than another person? We said at least a difference of 300,000 can be understood, because I am your boss, you are my junior, I earn at least slightly different from you. But a disparity of 3 millions, 4 millions, why for? Why do you favor others than others? Yet you know these ones who are down do the most work than the one who is supervising.
But there are different levels of education.
Yes, education, yes, but who is doing the dang work? Your education doesn't help you to do a heavy work. So disparities, for example, I am just citing an example. If you say a doctor to earn 5 million, we have both degrees, we went the same school, we are all scientists, and you say a nurse to earn 2 million or a nurse to earn 3 million, why is that cap? Where is it from? Yet we went the same school, we did internship together, we did everything together, we were passed together out. That is number one. Number two, the disparity which I'm seeing here, which is very serious, is that if a nurse goes for master's degree and a doctor goes for master's degree, the doctors are paid allowances during the master's degree. Actually, they are called SHOs, senior house officers, when they are there. But for us, when we are doing masters in the same category, I'm doing masters in public health, he's doing masters in public health, we are not catered for. We are not paid that allowance. Why should the government do this? Why? Should we say that doctors should work alone? There are certain things that come obvious that we don't need to think.
But just as one would think, much as it looks obvious to you because you're a nurse and you're a president of the association that brings, of the union that brings you together, one would technically see there's a difference between a doctor and a nurse. Some have certificates, then they do diplomas, then they do bachelors in nursing. Fine.
Yes.
Doctors. How long does it take to train a nurse and how long does it take to train a doctor? Levels of expatriates, if you're to look at this. So what equal footing are you calling for? It seems
we have a
help
degree,
us understand this.
Excuse me, let you understand this. We have a certificate nurse,
yes.
We have a diploma nurse, and we have a degree nurse, we have a master nurse, we have a PhD nurse. You get? At the degree level, we call them scientists, all of us. We are in that. I have a degree, a doctor has a degree. What is the difference?
You have a degree in nursing.
Yes. What is the difference between a degree in nursing and a degree in medicine? We are all scientists.
Are they different in terms of content, in terms of what you study?
Yes. It is not
Can
different.
a degree nurse do the same work a doctor does?
Can a doctor also do a work that a degree nurse does? Both of them, they don't do any the other works, but a nurse can do the work of the doctor.
Because I'm reliably informed, many government, even hospitals, not employ degree nurses.
Yeah, why?
Degree nurses are in the private sector. I don't know why.
Yes, that is why I am here, to complain a bit, that why are we training, why are these universities passing out degree nurses and they don't employ them? Meaning that the structure of our setting has not been updated. We are using a structure of 1995 when our population was 15 million people, Ugandans. But today we are 45 million plus. And now, if the structure doesn't allow a degree nurse, why do you put a degree nurse course there? You want to take nurses where? If they are not,
I see many of them are in private hospitals.
Exactly. Private hospitals are occupied. But we are telling government that restructure the health system. Consultant nurse should be there. A consultant doctor should be there. A senior consultant nurse should be there. A senior consultant doctor should be there. They are all at the par. Commissioner nursing, commissioner medical. All should be at par. All of them went to school. They do research. There's no difference between a PhD of a doctorate or a PhD in nursing. They do the same work. Now, the difference which I want to tell you is that nursing has its roles which you play to make sure that the patient comes out of danger. A doctor, let me tell you, all of us have been in the hospitals. You go to the hospital, doctor prescribe a medicine for you. You say, headache is having, you have headache. Doctor said, oh, let us give some Panadol. But before that doctor gives you that treatment, he first says, go to the lab. Yes, he doesn't do work himself. And doctor has never gone to the lab at the same time prescribing, at the same time giving Panadol. You get? We work as a team. He has to say, go to the lab or go to scan. Somebody specialized in scanning is equally important like a doctor, because doctor cannot perform any procedure without investigation. You have to investigate. Now, if you are sent to room 2 for lab tests, you bring your lab, you give the doctor. Doctor examines, the lab man has said, you have malaria. Then the doctor quickly writes malaria. You get? Then now, the next now you take your form to another room 3 for the nurse to say, look, doctor said you have malaria, lab said you have malaria. Please take this 2 times 3, 2 times 4, 2 times 5, rest, take water, take this. Now, then he is there or she is there to monitor you for the rest of staying in the hospital. 3 days, 4 days. The other doctor has gone. The lab man is still seeing others, he has also gone. But this person will see looking at you, checking of your pulse. Has the drug reacted badly? He reports. Has the patient changed condition? He reports. Now, who stays more than the other in the hospital with the patient?
The nurse.
The nurse.
Doctor,
but why do you pay this nurse less money than others? I told you that in Canada, doctors strike because of nurses, that they should be paid more money than them, because for them they have only 1 hour with the patient, goes to another patient, and they go away. Look at these hospitals in Kampala here. For example, I took my father in the hospital, but the other people referred me to the clinic where my father was operated in a private clinic. The same doctor who was the other side goes to the clinic and operates you in a clinic, and he gets money, and he gets government money. Not government money. He's paid for Mulago to work on patients, but he's also getting his private money in a clinic. Tell me that the nurse who has been in Mulago staying there, when does he go to do the work? Because 24/7 he's working. Doctor has already seen you once in a day, goes. He goes even 2 days, he comes back, says, how was the patient? Where were you? And now, doctors, they work on call, they don't work on night duties. For us, we sleep with the patient up to morning. We don't, they just call them on phone. And I'm using my own airtime to call him. He's sleeping comfortably and say, doctor, do you know what? The patient is what? The situation is worsening. Yes. He comes, then say, okay, give this. He goes. You again give, you be there the whole day, turning the patient left and right, cleaning the patient 4 meters. What? Why? So that's why the Canadians were very wise doctors and said, no, if we see output, my friend, if you want to pay somebody money, pay according to his work. In this government, if they would pay people according to their work, look at the soldier who is in DRC, who carries all of us here. How much does he earn?
It is all about patriotism.
Yes, you just be patriotic.
And also health, we believe it's all about patriotism.
Your patriotism, but you need to be rewarded according to what you do.
Just as you've talked about these disparities and try to explain them seriously for our viewers to understand that yes, nurses play a great role. Because I believe generally many would think the health sector, who is more important. There are other doctors, but you've given us that deeper picture into that. Now, we know that you've on several...
Come in.
You've discussed with government to see how best they can handle this Recently, yesterday, I saw the Minister for Health, Dr. Jane Ruth Achem, before Parliament and seeking for about 3.5 as their budget trillion for health, saying there are monies that are going to handle issues of salary and salary disparities. So the question is, all the time, the engagements you had with government, why have you failed to have the desired breakthrough?
Yes, thank you very much. I am just so disappointed when I saw this. I saw this in my phone. A diploma nurse to earn from 1.2 to 2 million. Why the government is failing or why this is happening? We as trade unionists or we as nurses, we sign a collective bargaining agreement. We told the government that instead of looking for money everywhere, left and right, you increase once in a year for a certain group of cadre. For example, if this financial year can be improved for health, you leave about others. Don't bother about teachers, don't about this year improve on health. Next year, you improve on teachers. Another year, you improve on judiciary. That is what we call collective bargaining agreement, which we did with the government. But the government has failed to go with our point of requisition. And this was gathered for because of collective bargaining agreement. So now, if they have failed because of collecting a bargaining agreement, then we have no option now. And our bargaining agreement was that this financial year, nurses, all medics are supposed to be enhanced their salaries. Then next year, for us, we keep quiet. It will be either judiciary, it will be either teachers, it will be either security. So that by 5 years down the road, everybody is covered. But if you say that I want to put little here, put little there, put little, it will fail because of revenue, because of money is not enough. So for this matter, nurses, we are supposed to get 3 million here. The disparity here now is 1 million shillings. Where has it gone? And this is where nurses are going to riot badly, because in the CPA we signed the agreement that this financial year a diploma should have 3 million, a degree should have 4.8. Now where is the degree nurse here? Even the degree nurses are not here. That is the riot which is enough for us to enter into riot with the government. I am assuring you, and I am just warning government, whether it is good or bad. Me, I came here to say there is no strike completely. I don't want strike. Myself, I'm patriotic seriously for government. I don't like people to die. I don't like my government to, because of peace. You say the peace we have got, we are using it wrongly. Because this peace we have got since the time there is no wars, there is no running up and down. Now people are using it wrongly. Instead, we need to use it correctively. Because
Justice, what you're talking about was an agreement of about 5 years back.
Exactly. No, this is the end of the year.
Where you said we have these in sequences.
Exactly.
That this time you handle this
group of people.
This group of people. Next time you handle this group of people. That was something we agreed 5 years back.
Exactly, and it is expiring this year.
It is expiring this year, but among the 5 years, I've not seen it even operate in 1 year. Why now? Where have you been all along?
First of all, we should appreciate ourselves that we entered into an era of COVID. So there was no way that we could pressurize government. Everybody was looking at the war of COVID. And actually, unfortunately, even other COVID members have not been paid for the last 6 months. And now we said you must pay them now. So we kept quiet because of issues are surrounding the country and the whole world and the economy ourselves, which we are seeing. But now we are seeing that we are in post-COVID. We need things to resume well and things should come up well. But now government should first, before coming up with this, if we agreed in a sitting, why can't they call us and say, look here, we have tried to look for this money, we are not finding anywhere. Can we adjust? But if you say, if you pass a circular like this, and yet there was an agreement, meaning that you are undermining the people who are consuming the agreement. And now, why leaving people out? Like a degree nurse, they are not here. You have seen even yourself. Why are you leaving a degree nurse? And you want to look at diploma, and you want to look at a doctor who is a degree only, and you leave out a nurse, a degree nurse. Out. How much is he earning?
Well, we'll go for a short break, and when we return, we'll be joined by yet another guest on set as we look at the plight of nurses and midwives in Uganda. And in studio, I have, that is, the president of Uganda Nurses and Midwives Union. We'll return shortly.
This is Good Morning Uganda.
It's no secret that ICT makes learning easy.
The strides made in our field couldn't be possible without it.
And now we can watch our favorite show.
My radio is my best friend.
UCC provides an enabling regulatory environment and policy guidance for healthy competition. We also facilitate ease of doing business in the communications sector through licensing, standardization, spectrum management, tariff regulation, rural communication development, and consumer empowerment. An informed consumer is an empowered consumer. UCC supports local content and innovations. Driving the development of a robust communication sector in Uganda is Uganda Communications Commission.
Get connected today with the My Airtel 4G smartphone and enjoy free data for 1 whole year worth 86,500 Uganda shillings. That's free 2 GB for the first month and free 1 GB for the next 11 months at only 250,000 Uganda shillings with free data for 1 whole year worth 86,500 shillings, making the effective price of the 4G phone 163,500 shillings only. Airtel, the smartphone network.
We also have enough air to...
It is intellectually engaging.
And you can only become a leader when there are problems.
I like that.
The same applies to Rwanda, Burundi. So what are we federating?
Whether what's from another country can be, I mean, somebody must be there to hold everybody accountable.
But at the moment, we would rather deal with what we have, make it right.
First of all, we as elites of Uganda, we have made Museveni the issue. I can tell Museveni is not the problem of Uganda. The problems of Uganda are much deeper. We can change the next 20 presidents and we'll still be this roundabout.
Deeply incisive.
The different political forces that we have in the country, we don't seem to really have achieved that minimum political consensus over certain things.
Authentically symbolic and insightful. Behind the headlines every Wednesday at 10 p.m. with Charles Odongto. All on your public broadcaster, UBC, inspiring Uganda.
Well, we're still looking at the plight of nurses, and we've just been joined by a lady. And most of the point we talk about nursing, of course, the brains quickly rush to these smart young ladies in our hospitals. And we have Nasaka Fatia, who is a clinical officer and also a NEC member, that is clinical officer of public health, and also a NEC member of their organization. Fatia, you're most welcome.
Thank you very much.
Though the English say better late than never. Now, let's just continue with our discussion. You found us handling the issue of salary disparities. And just as was talking about a category he feels has been left out, but also saying maybe this is not what had earlier been discussed. But we know you can only cut a coat according to your cloth. Don't you even feel that with government having this increment on the salaries that nurses are getting is something worth at least commending government for, than rather calling for more or saying this is not what we wanted?
Thank you very much, moderator. To make some correction, I'm Nasaka Fatia. I'm a public health nurse. I'm not a clinical officer. So I'm very glad to be here at UBC talking about the plight of nurses in Uganda. As of this time, when we are talking about salary increment, yes, it could be countrywide, everyone is yearning for better salary. But as nurses, this is something that we've been yearning for a long time, depending on the work we are doing. So if there are some cadres that are left out, it's not really fair. So according to our agreement, the collective bargaining agreement, there is a need for us to have increment over time, and all cadres have to be catered for. So at this time, and it has to be fair, sincerely. If it is to be shared, it increased, it has to be shared, equal. But now we are looking at where there are disparities, and then we need everything to be at a fair game, win-win. So for us as nurses, we are coming up to tell our colleagues that we are not resting. We are still crying to the government to do it according to the agreement we made. Can we have a fair increment for all nurses across cadres, and then make sure we don't leave out any of our colleagues, because we have our bachelor nurses who are not yet catered for as they had agreed, and some other special nurses. We have some specialties like that, intensive care nurses, palliative care, not to talk about the public health nurses who are not yet very well catered for according to the government structures.
Now, when you talk about categories of nurses, a layman thinks if government is to increase the salary of nurses, then that means every nurse in a government hospital on government payroll of course is going to benefit from this increment.
Yes, every nurse is going to benefit, though we are just requesting it to be a fair increment, not to have some cadres having a bigger range from the rest. If you increase a factor like 5%, let it cut across. Not to have 100% for someone, then another time you could have like 10% for another person. We just request for it to be fair, that all of us should have an increasing factor, which is general.
What is the significance of this? Because if maybe one salary has been increased, why then would you be so interested in these differences? Is this going to be deducted to match with what is yours? You know, one is wondering, well, now what is the cause of this? I think justice, this is what we don't understand.
Yes.
If you're maybe a police officer of this level, and then sorry, but also yours has been increased. Well, now this percentage is fair increment. What are you up to?
Yeah, thank you very much. Fair increment, we agreed. This was agreement done. We said a doctor should earn 5 million, which was adhered. Now it was passed, and they are following that one. Now, why we are saying unfair? A nurse, a degree nurse, was cassated to have 4.8 million, a difference of 200,000 with the doctor, because this category have degrees. So we say, okay, our doctors get difference between us and you as 200. That is where we are saying fair game. But now if you say a degree nurse to earn 3 million, the other one earns 5 million, what is your base? Now two, we have look at commissioners at the ministry level. Commissioner clinicals, a doctor. Commissioner in charge of maybe immunization, a doctor. Commissioner nursing, a doctor. Criticize, look at their pay. They are at the level of commissioners, but the nursing is paid less. I think where problems come slowly, you are at the level of commissioner. All commissioners throughout should be earning the same. So long as you are in science, you want science, you earn the same. You do science, you earn the same. Why should you say this one should earn slightly? We are in the same boardroom, we are in the same class, we are in the same hospital, in the same working environment. You are a commissioner on clinicals, I'm a commissioner nursing, he's a commissioner midwifery, he's commissioner public health. Now, why should you say, this one commissioner clinical earn more, less than the other? Yet we are at the level of a commissioner. So those are the disparities we are meaning.
Just as if I let you go, we have a viewer who is constantly on my lines. There's something he wants to get from you. He says, Robert, now that you have justice and one of our NEC member, that's what he has said, please let them clarify on our land, which was sold. Don't let them go without clarifying on that. You sold land?
Definitely no. There is no selling of land. Let me tell the whole nation and the whole nurses fraternity, and particularly the members of the union, that the said land, we have been having grabbers in this country. And if you watch carefully on Easter, my lordship, the Archbishop of Judge of Uganda mentioned it, telling government that be warned by grabbers. There are land grabbers who want to grab land. That land was given us way back in early 70s. And it was not cassetted anywhere. It was given by the government and by Mlago Bindeni to host the nurses' headquarters. It went on, and we did not have any title of that land. Not until 2018, when I requested His Excellency the President to fasten the process of the title. Then the President directed Ministry of Health to process the title for the nurses. It went from 2018, 2019, it was not out. So in 2020, when we were in Tungamo, then the President also again re-echoed to the Ministry of Health and Ministry of Lands. We were in the National Nurses Day celebrations, and the President said, please give nurses their land. What is it? What is the problem? So they wrote paperwork, they did everything. We were given land. And you know, land in this country...
You got the title.
We got the title, Uganda Nurses and Midwife Union. We thank the President of this country, we thank the Minister of Health, we thank the Lands Commission, and we thank the Minister of Lands, who also, and KCCA, who produced the title. Only that with that issue, we complain that we are not private entity, we are part of the government, we don't do private things, and they gave us a leasehold. We wanted a freehold title, but they gave us a freehold, which attracted 195 million shillings to be paid to government as a revenue. So as Uganda Nurses and Midwife Union, we had to pay 190 million as a lease. So they gave us a lease of 49 years. Then the government will decide what to do. But the directive was to be given freehold. So we still have that challenge that we still need our freehold because we are not doing any business inside in the land. Now recently, when we had a private partnership to develop the land, you remember, let me cite for you 2 examples of this country. Look at down here, the Simone which was here. They said, oh, government has sold the land. Because people wanted to grab the land, they want development, they want to put a nice thing, but people are against it. And because they became against it, and you remember that Saka was there. Look at Naguru land there. The Saka which was there, up to now, they are now starting developing.
So back to this land.
So back to this land, we said we need to develop. By the way, let me inform the community that before acquiring a title of a said land, you must propose what are you going to use that land for. Before giving any title, Are you going to use commercial? Are you going to use whatever the case may be? But for us, if our land has been given, we plan what do we use for. For in this case, we had promised the president of this country, we have scholarship, which we specialized scholarship given by the government, given by the office of the president, and we send our students to Nairobi University. There are no specialized courses here in Uganda, in the universities, apart from critical care, which is in Mbarara University. But other specialty are not there. So we told the president that no, we want to put upstairs here, all this building, we shall build and put a specialized university. I have like 4 students right now in Nairobi University doing specialized.
So where does the problem, to cut the long story short?
So now the problem, when we started developing with the partner, some people now who wanted that same land ran up and down and say the union has sold the land. They did not. I did not even give them my title, our title. I kept it. They made noise, social media. I said, okay, come. Yesterday I showed them the title. I said, this is land of the nurses union. It doesn't belong to Mulago. It doesn't belong to Fast Pharmacy. It doesn't belong to what, but we are the ones developing with the partner. Because we partnered with somebody and say, look here, build for us up to here. Then for you, you use these 2 rooms or 3 or so. For us, we use here. And then when we get our money back, you get your money back, you quit. The agreement is there. We list him some part of it, and then he build for us. Right now, it is finished. We have built already, finished in the roof, and we are now in interior part of the land. So when people see development like that, they say, oh, these people have sold the land. We have not sold any land. We have also a land in Entebbe, which was given to us. We are also going to develop, and I know people will raise their eyebrows, but we can't leave land dormant when we have applied for a lease, for a title, and we are given a title, and you don't develop. How do you do that? You have to have
susceptible then for people to grab it. Exactly. Well, Opolot, I think that has been cleared very well. Your land is safe. It is just a development happening on the same land. There is a joint partnership to ensure they get where it is. Still look at the plight of nurses and midwives in our country. Now I come back to Fatia. Fatia.
Yes.
We know that nurses do great work in this country.
That's very true.
Much as doctors also do the same work.
Yes.
But over a time, nurses, okay, the entire medical fraternity has been craving for salary increment. And now what is interesting is that finally we want to believe you've gotten to that. It may not be the proportions or the amount that you wanted, more so when you bring in the issue of disparities. But let's also look at other challenges that are facing this sector that need immediate address.
Thank you very much, moderator. You've brought a point that has really been catching my attention. Apart from salary increment, the very big challenge we are facing as nurses, first of all, we are few in numbers, especially in government facilities. I can just bring it out as a way of restructuring government facilities, because when you look at the facilities we have and the facilities we had in 1985, the numbers have really increased. The populations have really increased. But the structure against which we nurses operate have remained the same. And when they remain the same, that means a nurse is going to be working against a very big number compared to what happened before. So we are just looking at much workload in the government facilities where there is no room for increment on the numbers because of the restructuring which has not yet happened by government.
When you talk about restructuring, for the benefit of my audience, what are you referring to, which has not yet happened?
Okay, restructuring is where we have the structures that are supposed to operate in government facilities, and we look at the numbers against the salaries that are available. I can give an example. I'm a public health nurse. I went and qualified in the Public Health Nurses College in Chambugo. After qualifying, sincerely there is a need, because we have a community health department where we need my service. So I had to go to my HR and I had to tell him, I have qualified in this and we have a community health department. Is there a room for me to be reinstated as a public health nurse? Because at first I was a nursing officer midwifery. He said, Fatia, I would love so much because truly we have that. But according to the structure that I was given by government, I don't have that position. And then I looked at that department which has only one person who is a consultant public health. So we looked at that paper studying, the need for that service is there, but the structure that has been given by government to government facilities, first of all, does not allow those specialties to be taken up. Secondly, it does not even give them room to increase on the numbers. That's why now we are saying that we are having so many people on the streets. They have studied. There is need for them in the hospital, but government cannot absorb them because there is nowhere they are going to be able to pay them because of the constrained structure. That's what I mean.
Now, you've talked about constraints. This brings me again to ask that we know that government is constrained in terms of finances. And Justice has just said that when I discussed with him, actually that was yesterday, he told me, we have no hopes and we are just happy that government has listened to us. Today, with just what Fatia has said, Justice, what is the way forward? Are you going to continue engaging with what you've just gotten to know? What should the nurses expect of you?
Yeah, thank you very much. Since we have seen the outcome, first of all, in summary, that the bachelor nurses have not been catered for. There is that disparity still on here. I tell my colleagues there is need to engage government. Failure to discuss this, we have no option. Because nurses in this country, 75% of them are the main backbone of health. If nurses don't be included, does not be included here properly, well spent, they will have no option. I'm telling you, they will have no option other than laying their tools down. But that is not the way to go, because maybe it's an error by the minister or whoever sent this. I just pray that it is an error. But if it is true that they left the bachelor nurses, my friend, we are not going to talk anything. We are going to engage them. I'm going to engage the parliament. I'm going to engage Minister of Public Service. I engage my mother ministry, who is Minister of Health, within this week of time. And if we don't come into compromise, we shall plan how to do it. And of course, for me, I can't declare anything. My members are there. They will say what they have. But for me, I'm just their leader, and I am just speaking on their behalf. So I am just praying that let the Health Service Commission, Health Parliamentary Group, give me a room to talk to them. And then Social Services, give me room to talk to them. The minister and the PSs of the two ministries, Health and Public Service, let me talk to them as a group. We sit and we harmonize. Okay. Otherwise, things will not be the same. Things will be worse than before. Because of the CBA we cite, they are not understanding it, they are not accepting it to put it here.
Thank you so much. Your final remarks, Fatia.
Our final remarks for this morning, I'm pledging to my fellow nurses. The first thing that you should agree with us, that we are not striking. That one I have to bring it very clearly. We are not striking for whatever reasons at the moment. Not until we get an official communication about the salary structure that we are expecting, or the salary increment that we are expecting in July. The moment we get an official communication concerning the increments and the new salary structure for the next financial year, then we shall tell you. Otherwise, as of now, we are not striking.
Well, thank you so much. I can't let you go before I also, just a brief, we know that you will be having the International Nurses Celebration. That will be on the 12th of May, but I think that is something also just in a second we hint about, because time is still there. But of course, coming to messages, many are still asking. That is one of the things they're asking. Will we have this now that COVID-19 regulations were dealt with? Just in a minute.
Yeah, thank you very much. I will take this opportunity to welcome all the nurses back to the normals because COVID-19 has been a problem, and we are now to resume our scientific conference and International Nurses Day celebrations, which is going to take place in Kamuli this year in May 12th, and we are starting from 9th of May to 12th. And all the nurses, those who are not on duty, those who will be free, they should go there. And of course, as you saw, the guest of honor on that day of the International Nurses Day celebration will be His Excellency the President of the Republic of Uganda, and also some ministers. And also we have invited our colleagues from Tanzania, from Kenya, and from Rwanda. So please, you are most welcome. Pack your things and prepare to come for International Nurses Day celebrations. This day is one day in a year for the nurse to celebrate the birth of the founder of modern nursing. So we need to celebrate because if she was not there, if she did not actually bring it up, we would not be existing as nurses. So
well, I want to thank you so much, ladies and gentlemen. We've been looking at the plight of nurses in Uganda, and I've been with Kiprop Justus Kiplangat, who is the president of Uganda Nurses and Midwives Union, and Nasaka Fatia, that is a public health officer and also a member of the union. Have a lovely day. God bless you.
Okay.
Live from UBC Studios in Kampala. This is Good Morning Uganda. Live from UBC Studios in Kampala. This is Good Morning Uganda. Live from UBC Studios in Kampala. This is Good Morning Uganda. Live from UBC Studios in Kampala. This is Good Morning Uganda. Live from UBC Studios in Kampala. This is Good Morning Uganda. Live from UBC Studios in Kampala. This is Good Morning Uganda. Live from UBC Studios in Kampala.